Welcome back to a very somber Retro Rebound.
In today's video, we're talking about our favorite thing here on this channel, physical video games. Hot off the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which by the way, I did like very much. A new conversation developed because afterwards we go to the Nintendo Switch website, we start learning all the information on the hardware pricing, the pre-orders, and game prices, particularly both digitally and physically. Now, as much as I do love supporting physical media, you can see my whole Switch collection back there. I do buy as many modern games as I can physically, but the reason I've sort of halted on that is because more and more games that you buy physically are just product codes or keys that unlock the digital version on your console, so you're really just buying a paperweight. Also, the stats have shown that digital games are leading the charge right now. Here's Matt Piscatella saying the rate of decline in US physical video game software spending accelerated in 2024. Spending on physical video game software in the US has been cut in more than half since 2021 and is now more than 85% below its 2008 peak. And it's funny, he says here, we'll see if Switch 2 can reverse the trend, which is where a lot of us were at. Many of us were counting on Switch 2 to kind of be the savior of physical games because Nintendo does rely a lot still on physical sales, not all their sales, but stronger than say an Xbox or a PlayStation. We thought they would hang on a lot longer, and it seems like in some cases they will, but the transition is being made and they are doing particular business tactics to start to push you into the digital realm, where I do have to say it, the death truly of physical games is upon us, and it's only going to be down to like retailers such as limited run games doing them as special editions where it'll actually be a cool, exciting thing like we remember. But I think the days of going out to stores and buying things physically is going to dwindle away now with the Switch 2 making this shift. Why do I feel this way? Well, when you go to the Nintendo Switch website, they start by talking about game key card overviews. They say game key cards are different from regular game cards because they don't contain the full game data. Instead, the game key card is your key to downloading the full game to your system via the internet. After it's downloaded, you can play the game by inserting the game key card into your system and starting it up like a standard physical game card. And they show here an example of what box art looks like when it is just a game key card. It is clearly specified, and we will talk about that in a moment when looking at particular box arts for Switch 2 exclusive games. They follow that up with a little tutorial here. You insert that crazy looking red cartridge into your Switch. It downloads the game because, as they say in step 2, the game itself isn't included on the game key card, so you have to download it before you can play. Some of you may be looking at me like I'm crazy right now. Maddie, this was a thing for the Switch 1. My example right now is something like Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. You pick it up in a physical store, you pick it up in a storefront, you see right there at the top, internet download required. You may require a micro SD card if there's not enough space. It is telling you right then and there, you are buying a piece of paper to download this game. It's just inside the game box that you remember really well. In that sense, things are the same. Nintendo is just specifying more so. However, there is a transition happening in the pricing of video games, particularly digital versus physical, and that is going to start to shove people into the realm of digital, whether it be to play classics like GameCube games on Switch 2, or to play, even the newest games. So what you see here are pricing on Nintendo's own website, and you see here, Mario Kart World is going for $80 digitally and $90 physically. Meanwhile, Donkey Kong Bonanza finds itself at $70 digitally and $80 physically. So the standard that has been set for the industry during the Xbox Series X and PS5 generation has been the $70 price tag. And as someone who reviews a ton of games, some people think I've become more strict as a reviewer. Part of it is because of the price tag. That $10 jump is something. It is a difference maker for many of us, myself included. Now that job just got a lot more difficult. I'm looking at games that go up to $90. That's certifiably insane. As a physical game collector, that's where I draw my line. I love physical, but for $90, I don't know, especially when some of these may be game key cards. It looks like Mario Kart World isn't going to be that. But here's the trick. When you start to look at the Switch bundles, you maybe get a little bit of a theory in your head. You see the Switch on its own is $449, which I think is a pretty good price based on what I was personally expecting, which was in the 500 plus range. Now, we do get it $500 if you want to buy the Nintendo Switch 2 bundled with Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World, as I just showed you here, is a $80 to $90 video game. However, if you buy it bundled in with your Switch 2, technically, based on the standalone Switch hardware price versus the one that combines Mario Kart World with the Switch 2, it's actually looking like a $50 game. So technically, what Nintendo is telling you here is you can either spend another $30 to $40, which just go toward another game, or you buy the bundle that has the game come with it digitally. I think the attachment rate for this game on the Switch 2 is going to be absolutely sick, but you can start to see where they're nudging you based on the price tag and how it is a discount digitally. And when things are $90, even if you have a lot of money, I think jumping down to $80 is a pretty easy ask. I mean, again, I think I'm the perfect person to be out here telling you all, like, I am even looking at, like, I think I'm going to go digitally because, like, that is a lot of money. But yet the collector in me, my heart as a collector is looking at this like, there will just be a day there will never be physical. And if these are available on the cart, would I jump for that physical price? But when we look at the stats from the start of this video, we're in a small demographic, man. And to be fair, that has been the case for multiple years, really since the start of this last PS5, Xbox Series generation. You know, digital spending has gone up. You know, there's a lot of sales and stuff. And why are they doing this? Well, Nintendo, just like Xbox and just like PlayStation, wants to cut out retailers. They want their full money from you. And they get a lot of, like, the profit margins on these games in particular must be insane. I think both look excellent, by the way. I will be playing and buying both. But the actual profit margins for these games now is insane because we know what's going to happen. They're going to blow the doors wide open. GTA 6, without a doubt, will be pushing probably $100, which, again, I look at these prices and I think Nintendo can make good enough games to charge these prices. I think Rockstar can, but we know how this industry rolls. Right when $70 opened up with, I think, NBA 2K, everyone jumped in on that for the most part. There were some games that were surprising. Like, I think Resident Evil 4 Remake was one where it was 60 and I was like, wow, that's great. That's a good look for Capcom. But otherwise, there were many who had no business charging that much money, still charging that much because if they hit the sales they wanted to, the profits for the game alone would have been crazy. Now, when we take a look at some of the physical cases for upcoming Switch 2 video games, you'll see a couple of differences. For example, with Donkey Kong Bonanza, there is no mention of a game key card. So I am led to believe that this is a game I would want to buy physically. However, that physical copy is now going to be $80. And I don't know if it's because carts are more expensive to produce. I don't know if this is a response to, ongoing trade wars and that sort of thing. I don't know if it's in response to the increasing cost of game development. Whatever it may be, we do know that because the industry only has so many distributors. And so because of that, the new costs will get passed on to the consumer to handle. So there's a lot of places that this price jump could be coming from, but it looks like Donkey Kong Bonanza could be a safe physical pickup. Meanwhile, you see here with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo Switch 2 editions that are getting their own physical copies. They say it includes at the bottom here the Nintendo Switch game and the Switch 2 edition upgrade pack. The upgrade pack is also available separately. Now, this does not mention the game keycard, but one thing that disturbs me greatly as someone who loves their physical games is, like, imagine just every game having this gradient black box at the bottom with the rating, with a bunch of text. It just disturbs me. Put that at the back of the box, for God's sakes. I mean, maybe there's some rule where they have to have it at the front so the consumer knows when they're picking it up. But yeah, you get your QR code on the front. It's telling you where you can get details on all this stuff. But this also doesn't appear to be a game key card. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, amazing box art, by the way, has a Nintendo Switch 2 edition as well. It says, again, includes the Nintendo Switch game and Switch 2 edition upgrade pack with a separate one available if you, I guess, just bought the Switch 1 version and then bought the upgrade pack online. Also, what's interesting about these upgrade packs, if you have Switch Online, they come for free. Otherwise, they're about $10 to $15, which I think if they're adding new content, which is something that, say, PlayStation wasn't doing, they were just like, hey, it looks better. pay us $10. And I was like, I don't know about that. Same thing going on here with Mario Kart World. No game key card tag at the bottom whatsoever. It could be that these aren't finalized, so I don't want to be too definitive about it, but it looks like the initial lineup of Switch 2 games is looking pretty safe based on the labeling that we saw at the start of all this. But the reality is that Nintendo is gearing up much more to transition into that digital realm, whether it's the way they're pricing their games compared to their hardware bundles, the game prices and differences between physical and digital alone, like whatever it may be, the push is toward digital. This is why I said when they added Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color games to Switch Online that I'm really hoping one day they put these classics into their own store page on the Switch Online store and let you buy and own them. I could really get down with digital games if they let me own them. The problem I'm having is when they announce something like GameCube games on Switch, I'm like, yes, cool, I've really wanted this. And the opening games look great. Soul Calibur 2, you have Wind Waker, F-Zero, like multiplayer support, awesome. Like it's even an enhancement. I can do online multiplayer with this stuff. Like this is great. But then I have this sad realization. I'm like, well, it's only as available as Nintendo makes it. Fortunately, they haven't removed any games, and hopefully that remains the trend. But there is that consumer product trust relationship when you purchase into a service like Switch Online, which they're investing heavily in. They put game chat into it. Finally, they're doing screen sharing. Like, you know, they're trying to upgrade a lot where I think a price bump's going to come in. And when I look at all this, I just hope that one day they do put the classics on the storefront like they once did with the Virtual Console. I know it boosts the value of their subscription service, but I view it a lot like what Xbox is doing with Game Pass. These games that are available day one on Game Pass are still for sale. The question is just really up to the consumer. Are you going to buy a Game Pass subscription for a month just to play this game at a cheaper rate? Or are you going to buy the game in full because you only buy a couple games a year and this is the one you've really settled on? I think of it as the same thing with the Switch Online plan. Do you want to combo up with some friends for, a family plan? Or are you just really a big F-Zero fan? You're like, you know what? I just want to buy this. I think if we could buy and preserve these games a lot more, I would be totally okay with the digital push because we've transferred console generation after console generation. We've carried these libraries over. So I'm a little less concerned about that, but I'm more concerned about some of these classics that we are trying to bring forward and we're locking them behind subscription services. I don't think that Compat should be a subscription service offer. It should be a bare minimum for the console. And technically Nintendo is doing that. They have all these different games now, from the Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance, Sega, Genesis, which is awesome. You also now have GameCube games day one on the Switch. So I'm not complaining per se, but again, I have real concerns as someone who is a physical game owner and believes strongly in preservation because we can't let this media go away forever or else we are doomed to repeat our mistakes. That and also this is just history. I feel like gaming as an entertainment, we're just okay with scrapping away years of hard work, even if that work isn't great. Again, that's stuff that you can study. That's still a part of gaming history. And so when I see Nintendo, who's always been a little more kid-oriented, kind of going in this digital direction where it's not really a toy anymore, it's a software that you can buy with money, I worry that, again, a lot of the industry is going to follow suit. Because some of what the Direct 2 really showed me is Nintendo's falling in line a little bit. They did, for example, the Welcome Tour game, which is clearly a rip on what Astrobot did for the PlayStation 5. And I think Nintendo, for as creative as they are, it's rare you see something so, I think, deliberately taken out of someone else's playbook. And they're like, let's just do that. Same thing here with pricing, with how they're using their subscription service. It's about money. And again, as someone who's a big physical game guy, I'm even having question marks about, should I buy these physically? The amount of extra money I'd be spending for Mario Kart World and Metroid Prime and all these games I want to buy day one on my Switch 2 physically to increase my physical collection for my Switch. You can see I literally left shelf space wide open for my Switch 2 because I was starting to donate games and open up space. I'm like, there's no way that Nintendo doesn't do a great physical program. But did I expect a $90 physical game? Do I like Mario Kart that much for $90? I don't. I don't. I do like Mario Kart a lot. I have great memories of the series, but $90? Tough, man. Tough. But again, that's the whole point. They get people like me who are hanging on going, $10 less is okay, I guess I'll do 80. That's still insane. But that's where we're at now. And Nintendo's pushing the limits a bit. It might just be a one-off. It could be an overreaction by me, but no doubt the door is open for someone else to step through in this industry. And I thought it was going to be GTA 6, and then at least it would have been a good kind of gatekeepers like, yeah, but Rockstar, right? But now we have Nintendo, and no disrespect to Mario Kart World, doing it with this game. I'm like, okay, here we go. My hope at least is with these games that are so pricey is that DLC is free. I mean, what an idealistic ask, but when you look at the prices, I'm like, I hope. Anyway, I know this isn't your typical Retro Rebound video, but it's very relevant to this audience. We do the complete unbox experience here on this channel, and it's so important to what we do that to think about a time where it won't be a thing anymore is very sad. So we're seeing the transition happen. Hopefully, my closing note that is positive is hopefully these game key cards are more for like, you know, Switch digital games that are like third party, and it's just their new way of branding it. And hopefully based on what box arts I've shown you today, like Mario Kart World or the upgrades for Switch 1 games, that these are just like anything Nintendo first party is going to stay physical. That would make me really happy. And again, as someone who really values this, I just hope it remains a priority for Nintendo. It's so important. My best example is actually Starfield. I love Bethesda Game Studios, as you know, and so naturally got the collector's edition for Starfield. And you think like, oh, Steelbook, cool. Like this is a thing that's been sitting on my shelf for a while. No game. In fact, they give you what is called a cred stick in the game's world. And this is cool. It's like actually a piece of metal, if you can kind of hear that. It's awesome, but it has the game key on the back. Like this is the game key. So it's a cool way of doing the game key for a collector's edition, but you know, this thing just sits on my shelf and it's a dust collector, man. Like I put over 100 something hours into Starfield when it first came out. And to think that, you know, this is kind of like the future of like even collector's editions makes me a sad boy. I still love games more than the physical part of it. So it doesn't kill my excitement for gaming, but it makes me sad that like those times of just, sometimes I go to like Best Buy and I'm like, let's just do a little spending spree. Let's get just a couple of games, and knowing like, oh, 2 games is going to push $200. I don't know anymore, y'all. And Nintendo, y'all better be really putting things on sale now, because if you're charging this much for your games, is that the idea? They can actually drop things to 70 and we'll all jump in later. I got so many questions still. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into a very different Retro Rebound video. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Please take great care of yourselves, and I'll catch you all in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.